Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Tiffany.
To some, we could be called career wizards.
And to others, sometimes we seem like therapists. However, we definitely are not.
But for you, we are the co-hosts of the Career Boosters podcast.
It's more not along the lines of how much time you have, but how much quality energy you can bring to that time. And personally, I think time management is kind of focusing on the idea of when will I do this? And then when I look at energy, it's kind of along the lines of how much quality am I going to bring to this task? So,
all right. Hello and welcome to the Career Boosters podcast, season 3, episode 5. This week in class, MBA students focused on energy management, boundary management, including saying no to things, time management, and all things through, my many years of experience. MBA students kind of struggle with as they maneuver through this 2-year program. I remember having an alum come to a session with us and meeting new MBA students. They were asked to network with them, but one of the fun activities we had was, what kind of advice would you give to MBA students? And they actually, we had them write it down on these little Post-it notes. And the alum wrote this, and it really resonated with Tiffany and I. And actually, so much so that I've kept it for like 3 years. Learn to manage your energy and not your time. And in my opinion, that's one of the best pieces of advice that alum have really given. So this week, Tiffany walked MBA students through strategies, thoughts, perceptions that allowed them kind of time to reflect on what time, energy, and boundary management really meant. And she actually helped them all figure out how to get their ducks in a row. Their potential proverbial little plastic ducks, how did they get them in a row? And we are very excited to welcome one of those students that was in that class, Joshua Eszczuk, to join us today. So Josh, thank you so much for joining us. And the first question we have just is, what is the story behind your decision to embark on an MBA journey right now?
Sure. Yeah, so thank you for that question. My journey has kind of been along the lines of a lot of the health sciences and clinical research background. So kind of going through my different work experiences, going through school, a lot of that has been focused around those health sciences and a lot of those science settings. So often found myself in meetings with different individuals, whether it be hospital administrators or different policymakers, those kind of things. And a lot of times I had the science knowledge that was going on, but a lot of those leadership principles were kind of missing. And I figured, in order to advance myself in this field and kind of maybe open some more of those opportunities to get into more leadership roles, I wanted to kind of get some of that business knowledge that is foundational in some of those roles. And I kind of boiled it down to that no matter the field I'm going to be in one day, there's never any harm in having business knowledge. So I figured that I was at a point in my career where I kind of had that science knowledge. I liked where I was, although I kind of wanted to open some more new doors, new pathways, whether that be into more leadership roles or kind of maybe even go into a different sector. I don't know. But I figured that doing an MBA would kind of bring some of those business principles that would be very valuable and kind of help me take that next step along my career journey.
That's awesome. Very cool. And we're adding another question to this kind of intro piece today. I'd love to hear from you. You've been an MBA student for about 4 weeks now. What's been the favorite part so far?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been the people. I've kind of see myself as a people person and really enjoy the communication and meeting new individuals. So kind of going into the program, I always heard that MBA, you're going to meet some incredible people. And, I kind of took it with a grain of salt because everyone has their own subjective opinion. But being now a couple of weeks in, it's been really incredible just meeting the diverse group of individuals that are in our cohort, or even the professors. It's just, I think there's probably someone from every different sector in our cohort. So it's pretty incredible to see how each individual tackles a certain problem, or if there's a question brought up in class, everyone coming from different sectors might have the same answer, might have completely different answers. So for me, I think it's just been meeting these incredible individuals, making some new connections, and just really getting to grow with this group that I get to spend time with.
I love that you just pointed at diversity of people, because that leads right into our very first question, that we started off class with an open-ended question that you could all respond to, and it was, how full is your tank right now? And we saw responses from, gas fumes only, death, and there's nothing in the tank, all the way through to people who were like at a 90% tank full. And so such a diverse experience in the first 4 to 5 weeks of an MBA. Curious, what was your response? What's your tank like right now?
Yeah, I kind of took the conservative approach and went with the half tank response, and I kind of the reason for that I was thinking was I have enough juice in the tank that I can get the minimal tasks done, can get the day to day projects done, but kind of in terms of any sort of huge projects I want to take on or any multi week projects, you're gonna need some time to refuel. So gonna need to refuel, get that full tank to be able to do those things. So I've got enough to get the day to day tasks to go, but definitely want to take some time to recharge myself to have that full tank for anything big.
You know, Josh, it's so interesting that you can look at like I have enough to just get the bare minimum of my classes and things like that done. And I think a lot of people don't um even think about like you're 4 weeks into a monumental change in your career, right? Like you had, were working and now have come back to school, and there's new people, there is all of these things that suck all the energy out of our gas tank. And I love that you said, you know what, it's manageable right now, but don't throw any big tasks at me. And I think that's a very appropriate and really cool validating response that people probably think everybody's got it all together, right? Like I think that so many times we always think that everybody's got it all together, and I'm sitting at half full, And then the cool part about what we get to do is we get to ask, and then you see on this big board all of these random kind of things from great to really tough and challenging. So we talked about putting your ducks in a row, and we asked you guys as a table group to do that. How did your team approach putting your ducks in a row? And what was the conversation at your table like, and how did those ducks end up?
Yeah, I think for us, first and foremost, we came to the consensus that no one truly has their ducks in a row. That kind of, as much as you may seem that you got it all together, when we kind of broke it down, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's still trying to figure things out. We're only a couple weeks in. This is no one's second time doing an MBA, so it's a novel experience for everyone, and we're just trying to figure out how we can best put our ducks in a row for ourselves. And kind of the interesting thing about my group is we took a more symbolic approach to it. We kind of made the shape of a flower with our ducks. We started with the head of the flower representing the ducks looking outward, kind of looking all different directions. Still not entirely sure what's going on, just kind of looking around, seeing who's beside you, those kind of things. And then kind of we use the stem there to simulate there are a couple ducks in a row. We got a little bit of it figured out, but there's still so much of the program left that we truly don't know what's going on. And then the last kind of finishing touch that our group had was we added a branch off of the stem to represent a leaf, that there's going to be a lot of growth in the program. We don't really know what's going on, but we're willing to acknowledge that there is going to be that growth. We're going to grow as individuals. We're going to gain new experiences. So as much as you may either have it figured out or don't even have it figured out, being open to learning is going to be one of the biggest things that helps us get through this program. So kind of working together as a group, it was reassuring to know that no one, like you said, knows what's going on, has it all figured out. So we share that common ground and then use that to build what our picture of ducks in a row felt like for us.
Paul, can you hold up, like, grab a duck out of that bag? Okay, perfect. So that little duck that Paul is holding, which he has so kindly 3D printed a whole bunch of. But teaching adults, MBA students, is not about this earth-shattering knowledge that needs to come from Paul and I to impart to all of you as this brilliant wisdom. No, there is so much really cool stuff that happens when we drop 10 3D printed ducks on your table and have you all work together like within a metaphor. What a beautiful metaphor you all came up with, and how many more connections and learnings to each other could you have had than whether or not I stood there and like yapped on about ducks in a row. And so, people wonder what it's like to teach graduate students or to facilitate leadership stuff, and oh my goodness, is it so much better to like drop something in a table and walk away and let you all do the rest. It's pretty cool. So thank you for that metaphor. I loved it in class too. We did something different, and I don't know your take on it, so I'm looking forward to hearing your part of this answer. But I have been experimenting this cohort, this season, with trying to get us out of our heads. I think especially in academia and as graduate students, and I think just Western culture, we spend a lot of time up here and we miss what's going on from here down. And there's a lot of signs and stuff happens in our body, but we just don't listen to it. So I took you all through an exercise. You all stood in a different place in the room, closed your eyes if you were comfortable, and I led you through visualizing a time in your life when you were thriving and a time in your life when there was a bit of challenge and the feeling in your body that was different. And my point was, our body body tells us when something is going well and something isn't. Maybe when to say yes, when to say no. Purely curious how you experience that activity.
Yeah, I think for me it was definitely an interesting experience in that the fact, kind of looking back to the traditional, here's a pros and cons list of what's going on, what you like, what you don't like, is kind of just jot it down on the piece of paper, maybe stuff it in your bag, forget about it. But kind of connecting with that idea that we closed our eyes, had to retrieve something from memory, and then seeing how our body responded to that physiologically was very interesting and a very novel experience for me. So I think it was really cool to do something of that sort, because I felt there was a lot more concrete in what was going on, and it allowed much deeper reflection, and just kind of taking that time to understand what is going on in that specific moment. And then even say in the future you have a similar experience, you're like, I know that feeling, that's discomfort, or that's going to bring me energy or something. And being able to consciously reflect on that, I think is going to be so valuable than just, oh yeah, 3 weeks ago I wrote on a piece of paper that hanging out with my friends brings me a lot of energy. So closing your eyes, reflecting on the whole experience, and seeing the associated feelings your body produces with that was really instrumental, I think, in the whole activity as a whole.
Yes! Excellent. I don't know. I don't think people realize that like teachers and facilitators like play with stuff, try stuff, do things that we don't know how it's going to land, do stuff that we're learning about. Like that's just a fun place for teaching, but you never actually quite know how it's going to land. So I appreciate that. Anyway, Paul, off to you.
I think the epitome of examples of just throwing, what at walls and see what happens. And, we try things, we experiment. And I can't tell you enough, Josh, how often it happens that, like, I ask, hey, do you remember reflecting on this? And student goes, no. Like, I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. And so, great to have that, like, more whole body experience rather than just, a thoughtful moment for a second and go on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on energy and not time being the currency of high performance. And what do you think the difference between those two things are?
Yeah, I think for me it's more not along the lines of how much time you have, but how much quality energy you can bring to that time. And personally, I think time management is kind of focusing on the idea of when will I do this? And then when I look at energy, it's kind of along the lines of how much quality am I going to bring to this task? So if I'm running on an empty tank, like I said, sure, may take me 6 hours to do this project and the quality may be low. Or you've got a ton of energy and given 2 hours to do the same project, and you may produce the exact same product as you did in 6 hours. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that energy is one of the main driving forces in our productivity. And you could have as much time as the world as you want, but if you've got no energy under your belt, it's going to be tough to get anything done. And I kind of like to think of it kind of using a dull shovel versus a sharp shovel. If you kind of have that dull shovel, you're trying to dig a hole. It's going to take you a long time to dig the hole, but at the end of the day, you're going to dig a hole, although you'd had a ton of frustration, you needed breaks, and you're mentally exhausted, but the hole is there. And then on the other hand, you have that sharp shovel, you're digging the hole, maybe you do it before even taking a break, and it's the exact same product in a way shorter amount of time. So I think that speaks volumes to the idea of energy over time, and being able to utilize productivity in the means of energy rather than just saying, I've got 6 hours, what can I do? Say, I've got a ton of energy, let's get something done quick.
I love metaphor, Paul, and I love metaphor. So let's hang on to that because I think it's a beautiful one. So when you think about the dull and the sharp shovel, there are things in your life that dull your shovel, and there are things in your life that sharpen it. So drain energy, give energy. Tell us on either side of the list for you what you came up with.
Yeah, I think for me, it's if I just have a huge number of tasks I want to get done, whether it be a long day studying come final season, or there's a lot of tasks that need to be done in a certain amount of time, I feel like that could be mentally exhausting, and it's kind of at times difficult to keep your energy high when you're doing so many of these demanding tasks. Where for me, I think a lot of times building up that energy, whether it be I am studying and I take a quick break, go for a walk, it's giving myself the opportunity to pause, take a break, and then when I come back, I'm fully, I wouldn't say fully energized, but I have more energy than I would have if I just kept continue on with the project. So I think it's really important to acknowledge the idea that you need to do things that are going to give you energy in order to maintain that level of productivity and keep your shovel sharp so you can do the best work possible. Because at the end of the day, someone may say productivity is just working for 8 hours straight, but if that 8 hours straight is not the highest level quality, you might as well just do 2 3 hour blocks and you get the exact same product. So I think a lot of times it's important to acknowledge when your energy starts to deplete and find things that can help you build that back up before you just sit in a monotonous hole of no energy and no productivity.
Yeah. Josh, you are just doing such a great job at like really explaining the things that Tiffany and I try to get across to students, and Tiffany's very right. Like the world of metaphors are what really like resonate with people. And when I think about even the world of coaching and coaching, we help people sharpen tools, right? And we help people, when that shovel's been used too much, it becomes dull and not be able to. Well, then guess what? You work with somebody to help kind of sharpen that tool a little bit, which I think is really great, and I love how you talked about kind of giving yourselves these breaks. We also talked about practicing to say no to things. What did you practice saying no to, and what's been your experience with saying no so far in your life?
Yeah, I think for me, it kind of goes back to those times when your energy is depleted, and sometimes I don't know, you had a super busy week at work, or you had a ton of projects going on with school, and come Friday, you may want to just stay home, but all of a sudden all your friends are going out and they're like, let's do something. It's sometimes it can be pretty tough saying no, but for me, it's realizing what my energy level is and what the consequences of just further depleting an energy level is. Because at the end of the day, if your car is already low on gas, if you go and just push it right to the empty, it's going to be a whole lot harder to push your car to the gas station than just go fill it up when you got a little gas left. So I think for me, it's at times it can be tough because it brings in that idea of fear of missing out. You don't want to be the one who said no and everyone else is having a good time while you're at home. But at the same time, I think there's a responsibility to ourselves that we need to realize when we are low on energy and kind of the consequences that would come with not being able to recharge our energy. So for me, it's important to say no when I feel that I'm getting tired or I've had a long week. But sometimes it can be tough. I've definitely said yes. Sometimes I shouldn't have, but that's one thing that this week has really helped me reflect on. I think I need to take advantage of that and definitely say no more often than just always saying yes, because you need the energy to get through this program, and saying yes can get exhausting.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, can it ever? I'm curious what it was like in class to work on this concept of saying no with other people. Like we do that one-on-one with coaching. It's often actually a common topic, especially in the speed and the hustle culture that we all kind of live in. But we did it like together, table groups, sharing. What was it like to do that as a shared experience?
I think it was really nice because you're kind of on the same ground as someone else. Everyone understands that how exhausting life can be, and I think the common consensus was that people say yes a lot more often than they feel like they should. So it was nice to just sit down with someone and say, yeah, we say yes a lot. Let's figure out how we can find some ways around saying no. And a lot of times it's people value honesty. So if you just say, no, I can't, I've had a busy week, very few times is someone going to look illy on you or think negative things about you saying no and not coming to a certain event. So I think in class, being around a group of individuals who valued that it can be exhausting in life, that we need to say no more often. It was nice to just grow off each other's thoughts and develop some plans and ideas on how we can say no more often.
What you made me think of is Brene Brown's clear is kind. And so to be clear with yourself first is kind on what your tank is and should you say no. And then to be clear to others is also kind. And can you do that in a way that offers honesty? To your point, we need to be a bit more honest in that. I think there's a lot of value there. So I appreciated the conversations that I saw at the table.
And if can I just add something there?
Sure.
I think one thing that I talk about with MBA students all the time is focus on what you can control and don't worry about what's out of your control. If what is in your control is the ability to say no to something, right? And what is out of your control is the other person's reaction to it. And so I really love just the thought around what can I control in this situation, and my gas tank needs a little bit of fueling up. So yeah, cool. Thanks.
You had a really interesting comment in class. And so it came from the section in class when we were talking about something called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law is we will take however much time we are given to do something. And you've talked about that. I could take 6 hours to do something, maybe mediocrely. I could probably also do the same thing in 2 hours. And that truly we will take as much time as we are given. You had a comment that was interesting, and I'll leave it for you to offer. And it was a comment that when you offered it, had the class, half of them kind of identifying with you and your experience, and half identifying with perhaps the opposite. I'd love to talk about that. Do you remember what you said at that point? Can you offer your thought?
Yeah, so I think kind of going back to the park and slide idea, and you said we have a large window, and kind of one thing you brought up is that a lot of people like to set an arbitrary deadline on when something should be done because say you have a project due in 2 weeks, but I should get it done ahead of time, so I'm gonna tell my body that it's actually due by the end of this week so that I can just crush it out, get it done, and move on with whatever's going on. But I think for me, one of the difficult things was trying to do that work ahead of time and realizing, yeah, I'm gonna set this arbitrary deadline, but at the same time, if that arbitrary deadline doesn't get met, I'm like, I don't feel as guilty because really it's not even due at the end of this week. It's not due for another 2 weeks. And I think that was one of the tough things that Parkinson's law says fill in that time is you can set the arbitrary deadlines, but those kind of internal feelings that knowing it's okay if you don't even get it done by the new deadline you set for yourself. So I think it's a tough thing to tackle, and I know you mentioned a bit around motivation, and I think that ties a lot back into the energy because say my energy is low and I'm like I'm gonna get this done ahead of time. I may work for 4 hours, get not much done, and I'm like, nah, it's okay. Maybe I'll do it later. It's not due yet anyways, and so I think a lot of times it comes back to refilling that energy bar where you do have that motivation to get things done, and I feel like they're so tightly connected that without any energy, you don't have the motivation to get things done. You look for those excuses saying, yeah, it's not even due this week anyways.
Yeah.
But if you can find the ability to have your energy stay high, it brings along with it motivation, you feel more ambitious. You're like, yeah, let's get this done right now and I'll have more free time later. But it comes down to recognizing what your energy level is at and what kind of motivation it's going to bring with it.
Yeah. Josh, if you ever want to know about the inner workings of working with Paul and Tiffany, Tiffany is someone who actions things very quickly. She always does them right away. It drives me insane because I need to be at a deadline to produce the best results for myself. And you could tell me that something's due on October 1st, but if October 15th is really when I need to do something, probably the 13th or the 14th is when I'm going to be probably exercising my best abilities. But you know what is so cool about Tiffany and I is we have learned how to navigate that kind of those rapids in the river, right? And I think that's what's really cool about learning and understanding who works in what ways.
Yeah, and I think I remember my conversation or my comment to you, Josh, was, if tricking your brain isn't working, kind of within that understanding that we'll take however much time we give ourselves, if the tricking your brain isn't working, then are you actually wasting energy trying to trick your brain? And so how do you understand how you work best? Respecting that understanding what we do has impacts on others, so it's never always black and white, zeros and ones, but where can you spend your energy, because maybe it's not making that arbitrary deadline and it's maybe understanding that you're actually probably not going to get to it till towards the end, and is that okay in this case or is it not? So I appreciated you offering that thought because many in the class kind of understood where you were coming from and share that experience as well. We did a very light touch in class on boundaries, so I'm going to just light touch it here as well. But my suggestion to all of you was to look at your list of what dulls your shovel and what sharpens it, and circle or highlight an area where you think you could use to work on a boundary. Is there something on your lists that you identified?
Yeah, I think for me it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier in that realizing when my tank is close to empty and when the energy is low, and kind of when that Friday night rolls around after a long week, whether I'm saying yes or no to certain things, I think creating that boundary for myself that sure I'll say yes if it was a light week, I still have the energy to go and have a good time on a Friday night, but at the end of the day, if my energy is low, it's only going to harm myself if I further push that more, and it'll bleed into the next week where my energy may not come back, and it's going to be tough to recoup some of that motivation and get productivity done, like you said. So I think the boundary is really around realizing where my energy is at and helping others understand that. Like kind of the truth and the clarity is that letting others know that the energy is low. I just need some time to build that back up so I can be the best version of myself, bring the best version to work and studies. So I think for me, the boundary is definitely realizing where my energy is at and just kind of getting better at acknowledging and being honest with myself at where that energy level is.
Josh, we could sit here and talk to you forever about these things, but I think I'm going to ask one last question, and then Tiffany can move into the lightning round. But my last question is, when we think about energy management, boundary management, even time management, right? What is one piece of advice that you'd like to give somebody else that can help them kind of understand how to manage themselves or manage these things?
Yeah, I think for me, it's two main things that I've kind of been able to develop during my undergraduate studies and that kind of thing in terms of getting work done. Is it was mentioned in class, but for me, the Pomodoro technique is something that I kind of swear by and really appreciate the value it brings to a session, and even the idea of 25 and then a 5 minute break and just doing chunks like that. You sit down, you get enough work done, but you see the light at the end of the tunnel that there's going to be a break, so you feel more inclined to get things done. And even after a couple sessions, you take a 30-minute break, you recharge your energy, and then you come back to whatever you're working on with a more clear mind and have the energy to keep going. And then kind of the other thing for me on a more smaller task level, like you're saying, the actionable items, I think the 2 minute rule, I think it's by David Allen maybe, is something that's really important for me, that if I just got a simple email to send or something like that, I'll do it right away, get it out of the way, because over time those things compound, and all of a sudden you had a 2 minute task and now there's another one, now you're at 4, 6, 8, and just so on and so on, that eventually does turn into an hour or 2 hours where you need to sit down and get this all done. And although it may not seem like that much, it's 30 different tasks that all require your time. So if I can just stay on top of them right when they happen, it's a quick and simple fix. I think that's the best thing that works for me, and I would offer that idea to anyone who's looking to clear up a little bit of clutter in their life.
Kind of the just do it mentality. If there's something that's short and small, just do it. I'll offer for anybody listening who is trying to figure out what works best for them that there's also a neurodiversity consideration within time management, and there very much is some considerations. We talk about eat the frog first or eat the ice cream first, right? It has been touted for a long time that you should eat the frog first, do the thing you don't want to do first, and that works for a lot of people. It works for you, great. If it doesn't, from a neurodiversity perspective, there are a lot of people who need to eat ice cream first, and that means dopamine hits, small dopamine hits to get the brain going and flowing so that you can then eat the frog. So making sure that you are finding the way that works best for your brain is really, really important. I appreciate your tips and tricks, Josh, and all of your thoughts, but it's a lightning round time. You ready?
I think so.
You don't really get to say no, but we always ask. All right, 3 quick questions, 3 gut answers. What is it about your career that has given you the biggest boost?
Taking new challenges and taking new opportunities. This podcast being one, starting the program being another. It's finding those ways to get out of my comfort zone, kind of seeking discomfort and finding ways that I can grow as an individual.
Awesome. What do you wish you'd learned sooner?
The value of connection. It's everyone kind of says it's not what you know, but who you know. And I think coming into this program, I begin to realize that academics and your background knowledge gets you so far, but really being a people person, getting to know individuals and creating those connections is really what takes you as far as possible. So I think I wish I would have appreciated the connections I made earlier, but now really just honing in on that idea.
And service is so important to Paul and I. We kind of live and breathe it. So we're always curious to hear how service is going to show up for you in the coming week.
Yeah, for me, I love skiing in the wintertime, and although I know we don't have snow on the ground yet here, I like to volunteer a lot of my time with the Canadian Ski Patrol and do first aid for a lot of the ski hills around Edmonton and area. So kind of got some requalification going on for that, so just bettering myself so I can better serve the people who like to come out on the hill and enjoy the slopes in the wintertime. Hopefully it's not a lot of injuries, but I'll be ready if they are.
Well, that's 2 votes for winter outside fun on this podcast and 1 vote for a heck no. That'd be Paul. All right, Paul. Paul's random question.
I would be the person Josh would have to wrap up in some sort of like healing blanket because I have just tumbled down the hill. As a 6'4" real clumsy skier, that would be bad news for anybody really, and those poor children that'll probably steamroll as well as I'm falling down the hill. So Josh, you kind of like just answered exactly. I was going to ask, we hear Josh he's an MBA student, he comes from this health and sciences background and things like that, but what does Josh like to do for fun? So Josh, outside of the world of being an MBA student, what do you love to do?
For me, it's the last couple of years I've really taken a liking to golf. So although our summers in Edmonton are short, I do appreciate getting out on the links and just meeting some new people with that as well. Kind of going back to the idea of meeting as many people as possible. Golf is a great sport to do that. You never know who you're going to get paired with, and everyone's got an interesting story to tell. But like I said, skiing's a big thing too. So in the wintertime, any mountain I'd be more than willing to go ski. So it's a nice balance that we do have the summer and the winter here in Edmonton. I got 2 sports to keep me busy, and school's busy enough, but I like to find ways that I can fill that time elsewhere. And I've got a dog and a really great family, so I like spending time with them as well. And whether that be walks or just simply sitting down for meals, it's family and sports is my 2 main things that I like to fill my time with.
On my screen, which is probably different than what you're going to see for anybody watching, but on my screen, Josh is sitting in between myself and Paul, and he actually just talked about kind of being the Venn diagram overlap of Paul, of course, love of golf, my love of cross-country skiing. Bit different, however, it's skis on snow. And I just love that you're like a blend in the middle, and that no matter which one of us you talk to, you can talk one of our languages, which is really cool. So... Josh, I'm getting to know you as your coach. We have met kind of once, and I'm going to get to know you over your program. But what has come across loud and clear already in a short time is your love for novel. It's a word that you've used, novel, new, discomfort, trying something, getting out there. And that has a brand. It's a brand. It's something that you are just known for over and above what you say. So thank you for bringing that here, because your understanding of how energy and boundaries allows you to be able to try more new, to do new well, to do new in bigger and more uncomfortable ways. I think the core of that is how you understand how your own energy management works. And so what a beautiful place and offering of your thoughts so that other people can kind of figure that out for however it means to them. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
All right, key takeaways. Again, so many, but early on, he used a word to kind of qualify this energy thought that we're talking about. Because it's one thing to say it's energy, not time, right? Manage energy, not your time. That's like level 1. Level 2, he took it to, was you're looking to understand how to give quality energy. Right? That we can waste our energy. It can be dull energy. It can be, half-assed energy. But how do you ensure that, I know I semi-swore, how can we ensure that we're giving quality energy? And I think that difference, that's different for everyone, but I think that is a key sort of nuance to just level up energy management. So I really like that.
That's awesome. In the opening, I shared a little Post-it note about learn to manage your energy and not your time, and that comes from, honestly, one of my favorite alums of our program. There was another little sticky note that said, listen to Paul Taylor, which I can't say that's not bad advice, or good advice. I don't even know. So, a little joke to start off with. That wasn't tooting my own horn. I find that funny. So, but I think when I look at metaphors, Josh shared such great metaphors, but the one that really spoke to me was, imagine trying to dig a hole with a dull shovel. It will take you twice as long. It will be twice as hard. Sharpen that shovel, and whatever that means to you, whatever that is to get that energy back, to really sharpen those skills or sharpen that shovel, all of a sudden the hole gets dug before your lunch break even happens, right? I think that's almost exactly what he had said in that moment. And so that really resonates with me. And as a coach, I think I jumped in and said this over top of Tiffany at one point, but I'm like, we as coaches are here to help people sharpen their tools in their toolkit. The shovel, part of the toolkit, which I think is really awesome. So I really took a lot away from that metaphor of the sharp shovel versus the dull shovel.
Yeah, and I loved the whole point of that was you get a hole in the end.
Yeah.
Like the end result may be the same. How you got there is very different.
Very different. Yeah.
Oh, such a good one. All right, we have an episode next week. I'm not going to spoil it because class, we get to do a fun activity that just is a lot of fun and a lot of growth opportunity. So we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to say what it is. So find out next week. See ya. Thanks for tuning in to the Career Boosters podcast. We hope you had a blast. Yeah, we know that's corny. Catch you next time, and remember to subscribe wherever you enjoy podcasts.